guys. Welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abcary, and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you guys? Oh man, it has been a week, let me tell you. Oh boy, we had some crazy shows this week. We had one headliner who came in for our Friday, Saturday shows who had this crazy multimedia setup, with he had a laptop and an iPad and a monitor, like a TV monitor, and we had to figure out how to link all that stuff up using my monstrosity of a board. You guys have heard me complain about my soundboard before. And the Friday show, we didn't have a lot of time to sound check anything. And let me tell you, it was a disaster. It was, well, I'll tell you, the show itself was really good. And thankfully that headliner that we had was pretty versatile. He has tons and tons of material, so he was kind of able to do jokes without the audio visual cues. But yeah, Friday was rough. And so Saturday, I went into the venue and just went through it front to back, because Friday night I only had 5 minutes to, well, maybe a little bit more than that, but didn't have a lot of time to figure everything out. But yeah, Saturday I called in a buddy of mine to come in and just kind of go through it all with me and make sure that we got it. He's an audio engineer, and so Saturday that show ended up going really well, but man, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so I was kind of taxing. But then the last Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was hanging out with Derek Poston, Asana Mod, and Sam Lopez. They came up for a series of shows. And, oh, man, they're just so fun to hang out with. I really enjoyed hanging out with them. They're such cool people. I actually recorded a podcast with Asana Mod that I'll probably release for you guys next week. This week I have a really, really interesting one with a guy named Jacob Trimmer. This week I recorded this with him a few weeks ago, and I forgot how intense. It's pretty intense. Some of the stuff he talks about and what he's had to endure, and listened back to it this morning, and man, it was I just forgot. We'll get into it in the podcast, but totally slipped my mind. And I also forgot during this interview with Jacob, we take a quick break, and with us in the room, sitting in the living room, Matt Cole from episode 10 and Tim Groeschel were up with Jacob, and there's actually kind of a funny interaction. When we're taking the break, I thought it was I was going to edit it out, but then I kind of listened back to it, and it's kind of fun. Matt Cole is laying on my couch, and Matt Cole does this funny thing when he's laying on the couch and he's talking. He wiggles his feet like a giant baby. It's adorable. And I kind of call him out on it. You kind of have to listen a little close for that. That happens midway through the episode. So I thought it was funny, so I left it in. I didn't edit it out. And I might do a special episode this week with my daughter Abigail. It's been hard to get her back on with school happening. It's school year. And so I'm picking her up from school this afternoon, so maybe I'll release a bonus episode this week. Just that way she can have you guys can get a little update from her, because I know she likes talking to you guys. So cool. And I think we're just gonna jump into it today with Jacob. So here it is, guys. I'm sorry, my voice is shot. I had to host 5 nights in a row this week, so I've just been shouting my guts out for the last 5 straight days. I'm sorry about my my tired ass voice. So okay, guys, well, Jacob Trimmer, let's jump into it, and I'll catch you on the other side. They're nice and cold.
You see that?
It's quite refreshing, actually. Oh man. Well, cool, man. You seem to be enjoying your time in Fresno.
Oh, I'm having a lot of fun, man. It's my first time like really getting out of OC for more than a couple hours. So
Yeah, more than a couple hours. Did you grow up in OC?
I grew up in. I was born in LA County, and then I was raised in Irvine, which is the most Orange County city in Orange County.
Yeah. I've never done any extended stay in Irvine. I've driven through it, and it's just. It seems like it's nice, but it also seems kind of boring. I don't know.
It's sterile. Is the word I like to use, because everything closes at a certain time, and like every autumn when they have all the leaves fall, first thing they do is they street sweep and get rid of all of it. Oh. So it always looks just cold. They've revamped a lot of the buildings and stuff where they look somewhat cool to just be this just cold, boring concrete.
Oh wow! Just they don't like character, huh?
Basically, yeah.
It's wild. There's a lot of. It seems like they do a lot of business down there. There's a lot of big, fancy-looking business buildings. a lot of corporate offices and stuff. And so like you get a lot of people that work in Orange County or in Irvine, but can't afford to live in Irvine. Sure. So
they live in like Riverside County or something like maybe northern San Diego County or other parts of Orange County.
Yeah.
And so it's just constant traffic in that fucking city.
Yeah, and is that the people, or is that the people running the city? You know what I mean? Like, is it the people running the city that make it that way?
It's both.
Is it kind of a milquetoast kind of town, huh?
Well, there was this whole thing with like all the issues of the homeless population in Santa Ana. Other cities are trying to find a way to like take some of that away, like help them out. And so Irvine was like, we want to put up a homeless shelter so they have somewhere to stay and we can take care of them.
Okay.
And all the residents in Irvine were like, fuck no.
Whoa.
And they came out and protested at City Hall.
Wow.
Because they refused to help anyone that's not doing as well as them.
Jesus.
And Irvine has a sizable population that are that immigrated from Asia.
Yeah.
And so these guys that came here with nothing and like no one helped them out and they had to struggle and they eventually built stuff up. And rather than use this as an opportunity to help someone else who's in a hard place, they were like, nah.
Yeah, and it's I've talked about this before on the show, but it's a weird third generation thing. Like it seems like I see a lot of that as being Armenian, I see a lot of that where they kind of like got theirs. And they kind of want to slam the door shut behind them. Yeah,
that's a fair thing to say.
Yeah, and I don't know where that came from, because like if they were to express that sentiment to say their grandparents or their great grandparents, their grandparents would like punch them in the mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just wild that's and it seems like it's across the board with any kind of immigrant population that's come here. That third generation is always, for whatever reason, problematic.
That's when they start getting Americanized, I think.
And
like they lose some of the values that like their family had when they came here and were struggling. And they're like, oh, well, I've had it so easy.
Yeah.
And they just forget that not everyone does.
Right. And for you, like growing up in that kind of that sterile environment, what are some of the things you did to like keep yourself entertained?
Drugs and alcohol. That was.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, it was a lot of like the old generic-y early '90s playing in the street until the lights come on thing.
Sure.
And then me and my friends get like those cheap airsoft guns, and we just shoot each other with them. The ones you have to like pull the spring back for each shot.
Yeah.
And so did that stuff, and then once I got to high school, that's when I started smoking, drinking, doing drugs, and not a good choice. That was. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was working 2 jobs at the time.
Whoa.
For when I wasn't in school. When I was in school, I was just working 1 job. And then finished out that semester, or that year, and got fired. And then just went back to the other job and was working under the table. So my resume looked real bad.
Yeah. And what were you working out of boredom, or were you working because you really needed the money?
Well, I was working because like both my parents worked a lot to like so that we could live in Irvine.
Oh, sure.
And it was basically like I was working so I could have like money of my own to kind of have stuff. My parents, when I was 16 and got my license, they helped me out with getting a vehicle so that I could get to school, drive my brother to school.
Sure.
And then just for gas and fun spending money too. And then also like they didn't know, but also for cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs.
Yeah, that's wild. And it's also, how old are you? You're
27.
Oh, you're 27? Fuck, dude. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
that was like 10 years ago.
It's younger than people would assume when they see me.
I mean, I'm just shocked that like you, in the modern day and age, a high schooler can get away with working 2 jobs. You know,
Like I said, it was during the break. Like I wasn't working 2 jobs during the school year.
Gotcha.
And they were both part-time jobs because I was a high school age person.
Sure.
But
and that makes sense.
And they were right next to each other, so it was an easy. It's like down the street from where I lived. Both places were next to each other, so like every once in a while I'd have 2 shifts in a day, and it was easy to bounce between the 2.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just. I mean that's such. It's become almost like a dated concept, you know, like kids working during high school. You know, I mean, it seems. Like, not that I feel like you look this old, but like when you say it, like the first thing I think of is I can't tell you why. I think of like drive up like fast food places and like like girls on roller skates. And like,
Sonic still has those if you live in a bad neighborhood.
We do have Sonics here, but I don't think anybody roller skates anymore.
That's unfortunate. That was part of the charm, wasn't it?
Yeah. It seems like a huge liability, though. Like,
yeah, but like, there's always that like, oh yeah, you're buying like future diarrhea, but you might see someone eat shit later. That balances out.
What is that hiring process even like? Do you include that on your resume? Like, I've been roller skating since I was 6 or something.
I just assume like back when those places were really popular, just everyone knew how to roller skate, so they probably didn't have to do that.
It's my principal means of transportation. That's. That's wild. So you're in Irvine and you're growing up there, and were you I mean, was comedy like a lifelong calling for you, or how'd you fall into that?
I was always just kind of a piece of shit, and I would say things that you're not supposed to say, and try to be funny a lot. I didn't know stand up was a real thing you could do. Like I back when Yahoo Music was still a thing, I would like go on and play like the comedy playlists and stuff, and they would have like Richard Jenny. And Dave Attell, Stephen Wright, George Carlin, Lewis Black, all the old guys.
Right.
And I would just listen to that when I did homework and whatever. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Not a real thing you can do, I don't think. And then just never thought about it.
This fucking ridiculous thing. Like, it seems so unattainable.
Yeah.
I noticed something that happened to me like after I started doing comedy. Because I used to be kind of like the life of the party. You know, when we would go to a party or whatever. You know, like I was always... I never set out to do it intentionally. It always just kind of happened that I was the loudest, most gregarious person in the room. Okay. And then I realized, like, after doing comedy, I stopped kind of being that. And I think it's because I was sort of like subconsciously when I would be in a public place, I would want to perform. You know, I was performing almost, and once I had the outlet that was comedy, I'm like, oh, I don't need to be an idiot in public anymore. Like, I can be an idiot on stage.
I had the opposite. I was always like, I did most stuff alone or with like, I was only a couple friends. Didn't do a lot of like, when I did go to parties, it would be like, I would just sit there and drink. And then like some of them I would talk to people, like I was never the life of the party or anything like that. Sure. I always did what I now know as roast jokes. I always did a lot of those before I got into comedy. And now that I've done the roast battle, my friends always make the joke that like, oh, it's made me into this thing. It's like, no, I was like this all of my life.
You're just not remembering it right.
And they just didn't know me before comedy.
Right.
So because they're all my friends now are comics. So when I say like the shitty things that I say, people are just associated with the fact that I've done like it as a show. And it's like, no, I'm just kind of okay at it now.
I'm just kind of an asshole and I roast people. And that's actually a great segue. What's your experience with Roast Battle been like?
Oh, it's been great. I've talked to a few other people about it where it's like, for me, it's a show that I don't think it's ever going to really do anything for me career-wise. But I love doing that type of show because, like I said, I've always made these shitty comments to people, and now it actually gives me a proper platform to do it. I use it as it's a writing tool for me. It's like I'm trying now to space my battles out so I can have a month where I spend writing for the show, do the show, and then I'm still in that writing mode, and it helps me work out whatever regular bits I'm working on.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Like, I mean, I've never done roast, but I mean, I've hosted like special events, like, and I hosted a birthday roast a while back. Okay. And anytime you have something like out of your normal comedy wheelhouse that forces you to write like that, it kind of feels good. Like, it kind of feels, because so much of what we do as comedians, there's so little structure to it, you know, like you kind of like you write material, but you kind of just write it like, you know, like as it happens, or you kind of mull it around, and there's something about like being forced to focus, like something like a roast battle would make you do that. I kind of like that. I'm like, oh no, I crave structure.
It's a great tool because it's like a different muscle that you're not, because you're saying I usually write bits on stage now. Where I'll take an idea, or I'll write a bunch of stuff down, and then I won't memorize it. I'll just try to like have the key points. And then just kind of work it out on stage.
Right.
And so with this is like forcing myself to actually write one-liners, which is something I never do. It helps a little bit with remembering to tighten jokes up, to get rid of the fat,
for sure,
and just get to the punchline and make sure the punchline's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's got to be a net positive. I mean, I know you were saying you don't feel like it'll do much for you career wise, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like you make a lot of connections. I mean, I feel like you meet a lot of people, because you're out at the Comedy Store when you do that, right?
It's out of the Comedy Store, yeah. So I met a lot of really cool people, but it doesn't necessarily mean like that's going to help. Like they're going to remember me booking a show,
sure,
or anything like that. Like I had a full conversation with Chris Red. He has already forgotten me.
Oh, really?
Like, I guarantee he's not going to remember who I am as a person.
It's still cool though.
Oh yeah, it's an experience I would never have gotten otherwise.
Right.
But I also don't have any expectations out of it.
And you were saying this is your kind of your first time out on the road. Like doing it seriously. It's very cool of Matt Cole to drag you along on all this.
I'm very happy. He was willing to bring me along and take the risk.
Absolutely. You feel like it's something you're going to be doing more often? Or?
Oh, this is one of the things that I really want to start doing, is get on the road more.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me, I still have like a little bit more schooling to do. Once I finish the semester out and I have a lot more free time, I would love to spend more time on the road. Once I can get to the point where I'm at least breaking even and surviving, then that would be amazing. Because then I get more experiences out of it. I'm not stuck in these same mics over and over again. I get to try stuff out in front of crowds that I'm not used to. I'm out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I was telling you earlier, I've already gotten 2 new tags for one for 2 different jokes out of what's been 5 days.
Yeah.
And those are just doing 10 to 12 minutes. Once I get to the point where I can do a little bit longer, it'll be even better, because I can run more of my material and I can really try moving stuff around and try it in different order, see what works best.
Yeah.
And like some of my darker stuff I can build up to rather than just out the gates be like, so my grandma's dead, and risk burning the rest of my set to the ground.
Totally. It's a great learning experience. Well, that's cool, man. And yeah, you did Bakersfield, and you guys. It seems like, I feel like all 3 of you got a bit out of Bakersfield.
I don't know that I have a bit out of it so much as I have scabies, but because I was the one that had to sleep on that bed. For those who didn't see the picture, it was a mountain of crushed M&Ms and a roach on the wall, because Bakersfield is gross.
Yeah. Did you post that to your Instagram?
Yeah, I didn't get the roach picture, but I got the candy one. People are like, "Oh, what drug is that?" Like, they just assumed the worst right away. It's like, I don't know if it's better or worse that it's old food, but
Bakersfield's definitely I really like the people that come out of Bakersfield, but it is kind of a depressing backdrop, you know. But just one of those, just some of the most salt of the earth people, and like dear friends of mine are from Bakersfield.
I met some really cool people when we were down there.
Yeah, they have a really cool little comedy scene down there that's real active and real supportive. I mean, it's not huge, but they have a couple of like killer open mics, and just the way the way they all support each other and kind of rally around each other. I'm very jealous of. I wish we had more of that in our scene. But that's just me.
I mean, that's fair. I kind of like, also like support to a certain extent, but not when it becomes like too much support, if that makes any sense.
Sure, yeah.
Because like I like comics that give me honest feedback.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've seen some people give feedback to people where they're trying to like protect their feelings. I was like, no. If my joke sucked, I want you to just look at me and be like, no.
Yeah, right.
And be honest.
You guys actually have a pretty cool scene down in Orange County. I mean, I'm sure there's some shit parts to it, like there is to anything, but I mean, my experience is down there. I've been down there a few times now, and you guys are all just cool as shit, man.
I've really enjoyed the fact that I started in Orange County because it's a great way to develop.
Yeah.
And there's pressure to get better, but there's not so much pressure to like cut corners like there are in LA. Because you're not seeing as many people suddenly on TV or suddenly getting club spots.
Right.
So you don't feel like you have to rush things.
Yeah.
You can let it develop the way it should, I guess.
Yeah, but at the same time too, though, you guys have some really good clubs that you can move up into. I mean, because you guys have an improv down there, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you include Riverside County and Orange County, because it kind of is tied together, there's 3 improvs.
Yeah.
So you got Irvine, Ontario, and Brea.
Yeah.
And Irvine doesn't do as many local comics, but I know Ontario's got a lot of stuff for local guys.
Yeah.
Brea has some. I think Brea still has some local spots to people.
That's maybe this is a weird question, and I don't know if you can answer it. But it's weird that improv. Obviously, it's a corporate entity. I mean, they have, but I guess they just leave it up to the bookers in the clubs to decide the rules on locals versus touring acts. Or
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
I know Levity bought out the improvs, so that's part of why. Like, I think they go through Levity a lot more because they have their own like stable of talent. But I'm not exactly sure what the process is because I've never had a conversation with one of their bookers.
I mean, but it's a cool thing, though. I mean, you almost get, despite it having the same name, you get a different feel from club to club, which is which is kind of cool.
All 3 are in different cities. They're all set up differently, so you're going to get different shows out of each place.
Yeah. That's neat. I like that. I think we're so used to like a cookie cutter corporate agenda out of everything that you kind of expect the McDonald's mentality, everywhere now. So it's cool that they still have that character and that charm, that's individual to each club. But that was a weird tangent. Sorry.
I don't know. You're fine. Your podcast, man. You're steering this thing.
I guess so. So you're Jacob Trimmer.
Yes.
Hi. You are obviously you're a comedian, but more importantly, you've got a dad.
Yes, I do.
Oh man, let's talk dads, dude. So obviously you grew up in Orange County. Is that where did your dad grow up though?
My dad, I think he grew up in Westminster.
Westminster?
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's like the shitty little brother to Anaheim.
No shit.
And Garden Grove. It's like all in that area, and it's probably one of the more diverse cities in Orange County because they have like white, Mexican, and Asian populations.
I've lived in California my entire life. I've never heard of Westminster, California.
I mean, for a good reason. It's not that city has nothing to offer anyone.
Oh, really?
It's just there. That's
an
really
Anaheim
it.
Suburb. That's like
not suburb. Like I don't know. Like they have a gang population in that city, so at least they have that. I guess that's their big claim to fame.
All right, that's fair. So it's not a suburb.
I mean, technically, like all the cities in Orange County are kind of suburbs.
Yeah, I guess everything's kind of a suburb of.
It feels more.
LA.
It feels more dirty and urbanized than a suburb.
It's got some character. It's the opposite of Irvine.
Plenty of graffiti.
Plenty of graffiti. And so your dad grew up there. What kind of a kid was your dad? Was he tagging on stuff? Was your dad a bad kid?
I heard different stories. From between him and his 2 brothers. Where my dad was mostly like the good kid, but then he also like when he was in high school he went through his like punk rebellious phase. Had like a mohawk, but then he had shaped it like a bowl cut, so when it was down, his parents couldn't tell.
Oh, funny.
And he would like go somewhere before school and spike it up. And
that's kind of cool.
Re-pierce his ear with a safety pin each day.
Whoa, your dad sounds pretty hardcore, actually.
No, he didn't do anything crazy though.
Then looked at.
Yeah, I guess that's a good description.
Yeah.
He would just listen to the Dead Kennedys, but not do anything crazy. There was one story that him and his 2 brothers were like home alone, and they started like throwing knives at each other or something.
Jesus.
And they just ripped up the couch because they kept missing, probably for the best. And it was either my grandma or my grandpa just got home, saw what they'd done, just beat the shit out of them.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah. That's
for wrecking the couch, not for throwing knives. It's for the damage they did to their property.
Oh, that's funny. How into the? Because I mean. That's a good area to be in at the time that it sounds like he was in it to like punk rock. I mean, it seems like there's probably a lot of cool stuff happening punk rock wise at that time.
That was back when like Social Distortion was still doing apartment shows.
Yeah.
Jello Biafra was still in the Dead Kennedys. The Vandals were like only on their second album, I think, at the time.
Wow.
And so it was like the very early stages of a lot of the Orange County punk stuff. And then, well, I mean, Dead Kennedys were San Francisco, but still, like, they would come down and do stuff here too.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I mean, how into that scene was your dad?
I mean, he did some stuff, but he also like played football and ran cross country in high school, and then college he ran cross country. So he was also kind of the jock guy, did the fraternity thing.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't think he was ever too into the punk scene.
I got you.
Just like kind of like on the outskirts, I guess.
They were Jewish?
No. My mom's side is Jewish. My dad's side is Irish white trash.
That's funny. Yeah.
Like my uncle even works for the Longshoremen's Union.
Whoa.
The full on background worker in The Departed.
Is that how you describe your uncle?
I mean, it's pretty fitting. But we're Black Irish, so no one except for my brother. We're all like dark haired.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
And then one of my uncles, he also like he has more. I guess more of the Native, because we all have like a little bit of Native American blood. He has more because he's very dark.
Okay.
And can tan. And my brother somehow came out blonde hair, blue eyed.
Wow, you guys are just all over the place. Huh?
Yeah, there's no consistency in my family at all.
So your dad's growing up. He seems like he wears a couple of different hats. He's not tied to any one thing in particular. What and was he an okay student? I mean, was he real into school? Or?
From what I was told, he was a good student. Went to Cal State Long Beach.
Nice.
Graduated and then started working at an optometrist at a retirement center.
Oh, wow.
And then that's what he was doing when I was a little kid. And then when I turned 7 is when he joined the the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Wow.
And so he went from like semi-rebellious to now he's a cop.
Whoa, wow. Well, I have so many questions to ask you.
As far as I know, he has never shot a black teenager.
That wasn't where I was going to go with
it.
Okay. We'll get to it, I guess. So cool. So I mean, he sounds like an all around just kind of good dude. I mean, he seems. No.
He had a lot of anger issues when I was growing up. Like there were nights like I could just listen to him breaking shit.
Oh wow.
And him and my mom having scream matches. Like it was not a great marriage.
Oh.
And they tried to stick things out for the sake of me and my brother because the whole we don't want kids that are being raised by divorced parents.
Sure.
So instead we just got to hear him like taking a hammer to a cabinet in the middle of the night.
Ugh,
and
that's
just
healthier.
Him and her screaming at each other. And then like we try to do the family trips and be the good like white picket fence family, and instead we just like, oh, you didn't put this in the truck wrong, so I'm going to yell at you for 5 minutes.
Jeez. What and now was the anger something that was there for him growing up, or was it
that I don't know.
You think it might have been like anything to do with like stress from the job or anything like that?
It might have developed because of stress. Because like once you join the police department, the first thing they make you do is work in the jail. So you're just dealing with shitty people.
Yeah.
All day for 12-hour shifts or 10-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And generally, the people in jail deserve to be there, so they're not fun to be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might have been part of what got to him.
Sure.
But I don't have a ton of memories before I was 7, so I don't know if he was like that before. So it could have developed. But then again, like I had kind of anger issues growing up, so it might be just a genetic thing that we have impulse control issues.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. And at what point did he meet your mom and all of this?
They met in college. They were both at Cal State Long Beach, I want to say.
Okay.
And that's when they met. And then my mom was in a sorority. He was in a fraternity. So like that's probably, they met like a mixer or something, I'm assuming.
Sure.
And then a few years later is when they got married. A little bit after that is when they had me. And then 2 years later I had my brother. And they were living in Long Beach at the time. And my dad was in the Navy. Before,
wow, your dad was in the Navy too?
Before I was born, he was in the Navy. And he was a corpsman. And he always made the comment at one point when I was growing up that like I was the only reason he didn't get to see the world, because he was supposed to get sent overseas with the battalion he was attached to, and then I was born and he had to leave for the birth of me, and because he was on leave for 72 hours for that, they put in a different corpsman before they shipped out, and he got left behind and never got to leave California.
Oh, you son of a bitch, Jacob.
Yep, I held him back.
How dare you? Wow, man. Well, okay. I mean, that's. I mean, it paints a picture of him. And so, I guess growing up for you, I mean, what was your relationship like with him?
I mean, mostly normal. Nothing.
Yeah.
amazing, nothing terrible. He didn't beat me too much.
Sure.
I got the wooden spoon a lot as a kid. That was the big one. There were a couple times like I was being a shitty kid. He would use joint locks from his police training,
Oh, Jesus.
which is very not fun. It's a great way to wake up real quick, though.
Yeah.
He pulled me out of bed with one of them once, and I was not going to be able to go back to sleep anyway, so I just... Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm going to take just a quick break real quick because I realized I left the TV on in my bedroom and I'm picking up some South Park right now.
All right, no worries.
But yeah, if you want to grab some water real quick or something or whatever you need.
I'll refill.
Should turn this off before we get started.
What's going on?
I could turn it off for you, dude.
Sounds on.
Yeah, I left my TV on in my bedroom. I was picking it up.
I could have turned it off for you. Just motioned me like, hey.
Dude, you can be like my PA.
Yes.
You just live here now.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're my production assistant. No?
Yeah.
I still think it's adorable the way you wiggle your feet when you talk. It's
Like
so cute.
a giant baby. Hey, I want pussy.
Pussy and teddy.
Oh.
All right. Okay, cool. Check this back up again here. All right, and we're back. Cool. That was a fun break.
Yeah, got some more water. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I turned off my TV. You blew your nose, and we're back.
Everyone's happy.
We're gonna attack it. Cool. So we left off. We were talking about your relationship with your dad. You said he woke you up with a joint lock.
I mean, I was kind of awake. I was just being shitty, and I was like refusing to go to school for, I don't even remember why. And I said something shitty, and he just came into the room, put me into a joint lock, pulled me out of the bed, and then get the fuck to school. And then I think he had to leave for work or something. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm doing that now.
Okay, on my way. Do you feel like you were in need of that, like, tough love, or were
No, it didn't help at all. Because that was shortly before I started like just doing any opiate I could get. Before I was dipping into alcoholism. So like this, I actually became worse after these things.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I had like the impulse control stuff. And when I was 19, I tried to move. At 19, I tried to move out of state. Go to Phoenix to go to a motorcycle mechanic school. Ended up moving back and dropping out, and got into a big fight with my brother over the whole like fighting over space thing. And that was when I really hit like rock bottom for my anger stuff and tried to fight him. Wow. And ended up smashing his car, got arrested.
This is your brother?
Yeah. Me and my brother have since patched things up.
Oh, that's good.
But at the time, it was like real bad. And my dad, I got released on my own recognizance from Irvine PD's lockup to my dad's custody, and he came and picked me up in uniform. Like he had to leave work early. Wow. I remember the first thing he said to me was like, "How dare you embarrass me like this?"
I was gonna say,
I had to tell my sergeant what you did.
Wow,
what the fuck is wrong with you? And it's kind of like, that's not a great way to respond to this.
Yeah, that's rough. And how old were you when your folks eventually split?
They split when I want to say 18, or I just turned 19.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
My dad told me it was like mid to like late December, before Christmas though. And he's like, hey, you don't care about Christmas anyway, so I feel like it's a good time to tell you this. Me and your mom are splitting up. Oof. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I guess I'm never going to care about Christmas now.
Oh, yeah. Shit, dude. That's rough. I'm sorry. That's
I still got Hanukkah. It's okay.
I mean, do you feel like they're in a better place now that they're not together?
Oh, 100%.
Like, do you think it was a healthy thing?
100%. Both of them are doing a lot better. They're a lot happier. They've both since remarried.
Yeah.
And things are they're both, I would say, like completely different people, but like aspects of my dad's personality. Like he hated a lot of things and when I was growing up. Like he hated going to stuff that had lines. He hated holidays. And now he does all these things for his new family. Yeah. So I mean, he's happier. He's doing better.
When he remarried, did he have more kids?
No. He married a woman who had 3 kids.
Oh, wow.
From two previous marriages. I think it was. And one of them was still living. She was, I think, 14 or 15 at the time when they got together. So she was living with them, and then the other two, on and off, would like dip in and out.
Sure.
But
well, and I mean, did you ever get to see any? Did he do any like serious parenting for those children, or I mean,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
He told me not to curse in front of his wife's youngest daughter. It's like, oh, it'll hurt her development. She shouldn't be hearing these things, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I've heard you say so many things when I was growing up.
I mean, yeah, I could see how that could foster like a little bitterness and resentment in you, but I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for you. I mean, what were your feelings on all of that?
I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, there's a lot of like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's not. So I did like little things to kind of like rebel back. Like he would make me go pick her up from school. At the time I was driving just this shitty beat to hell Cutlass, and I put a sticker on the back where it was those like the bathroom sign stick figures, and like one was blowing the other one. And so I'd go pick her up from her high school, looking the way I do, in a just nasty car with that big sticker on the back window.
Just to embarrass her?
Just and him by extension. And then I would have to like park the car, and I would purposely like back it into a spot so that like the neighbor that's most offended would see it.
Oh, wow. And did you ever develop any kind of a relationship with your step sibling? Or
no. I have a decent relationship with my stepdad. I don't really know any of his kids. I don't really talk to any of my stepmom's kids.
Sure.
I see them every once in a while. I see my stepmom's kids every once in a while for like the holidays and stuff. Sure. It's civil and polite, but like I don't talk to them outside of that.
I got you. Yeah. And what's your relationship like with your dad today? Has it gotten any
infrequent?
Better? Infrequent?
I think we talk at most once a month. And like mostly for just holidays and like birthdays and stuff like that.
Sure.
And occasionally like catch up and stuff. But not nearly as much as I talk to like my mom's parents, my grandparents more than I talk to my dad. I talk to his family only when I'm like they're there, essentially.
I got you. Yeah. And is he retired or is he still?
No, he's still working. I don't know how many years he has left to retirement. I think he's eligible to retire in a few years.
Sure.
But I think he wants to. The way like law enforcement does their retirement stuff is when you hit, I think it's 55, you're eligible to retire at such percentage of your pay when you leave. But then every year you work after that, you build more of a percentage. So eventually you can hit like 100% of your pay, and you get that every month for retirement.
Right.
So I think he's trying to get as close to that as he can before he's just like,
Yeah. Did he have any other like interests, or obviously he worked a lot. I mean, it seems like. What did he have any like hobbies or?
He had like a midlife crisis and got a toy hauler and some dirt bikes.
Okay.
And so we used to go do that, and like those were like our family trips. We go out to the desert, ride dirt bikes, jump across and shoot guns.
It's kind of cool.
I wasn't bad. Dirt biking was how like I really learned that I loved riding motorcycles. Even though I crashed those dirt bikes quite a few times, it was still fun. But then he ended up selling them off, and I haven't ridden a dirt bike in like 7-8 years.
Oh wow!
So it's been a minute.
I worked at CarMax for a long time, and this doesn't necessarily apply to your dad. It's loosely related, but we'd have to do a lot of like people would call in to the store to see if they would qualify on a credit application for a car. And every time I got a customer, they would be like, "Hey, I've got great income, but a shitty credit score." And I'd be like, "I bet you're a corrections officer, aren't you?" And they're like, "Yeah, how did you know?" And it was always because for whatever reason, it seems like there's this weird mentality. It happens to a lot of them, but when they're like booming on overtime, they go nuts and they buy like ATVs and dirt bikes and boats and everything else. And then when the overtime gets cut, they all get that shit repossessed. and it just seems like it was just this weird universal thing. I met like one responsible corrections officer in the 7 years that I worked there. They were all just, and I think it's just that personality type. You know, I mean,
That and the high stress job, I think too.
for sure, dude. Like, especially in corrections, where most prisons are not centrally located. You know, they're usually like in some godforsaken part of the world. Out in the middle of nowhere, and that's your life. Like, that's your waking life, is driving out to the middle of nowhere, to the most depressing possible environment you can imagine, and that's just the world that they exist in. So
and they put them like one officer to every like 40, 50, 60 inmates.
Yeah.
And you have to walk the halls and like walk the cell blocks and walk the yard areas. Mm-hmm. And there's always that risk of, you pissed off somebody being disrespectful and they're going to come after you.
Yeah, because everybody is got it out for you to sometimes to a lesser extent, but they're either trying to get one over on you or manipulate you or trick you
100%.
or whatever. And I can only imagine what that does to your fucking brain.
Makes you paranoid.
Yeah. And so it just sort of, if it doesn't attract that personality type, I can also see how it creates that personality type. Or
those are the ones that are able to survive, so they're the ones that stick around.
It's true too. I mean, I always and that's one of the things I always say about Central Valley in general is the only path to like upper middle class around here is either nursing or corrections.
Okay, yeah.
There's not a whole lot of like tech jobs. There are more. There's a few companies around here that are doing a lot. A few tech companies that have moved into like downtown Fresno that are attracting and creating more upper class opportunity or upper middle class opportunities. But really, aside from that, it's like working in a prison or in an ER room, like where and. So, I don't know. Again, I don't know why I went on this weird tangent with you. But
tangents are fine.
But, so, yeah. I mean, and I don't what was your dad's role? I mean, he was a deputy in the sheriff's department?
He started working in the jails, either like roving patrol or central hub or whatever. And then he did patrol in Aliso Viejo, which is... like their biggest crime there is like a DUI or like the one skinhead spray painting swastikas on a building.
Sure.
No real crime. They had like those are the guys like real like violence was a dude that offed himself because he was just a crazy piece of shit. And he went into his closet, blew his brains out. And my dad had to sit in there because like SWAT did their clearing the room because they heard the gunshot. Yeah. So they like tear gassed the house, and my dad had to sit in that room with the gas mask on because once they've cleared the room and everything's fine, they have to then unload their guns, put them down, so they can count how many shots were fired, if any, and make sure that nothing that they weren't supposed to do happened. And so like, that was as close as he got to that. And then he went from there to working transport. So he drives the bus. Like he went back to working intake at the jail while he got qualified to drive the bus. Then he drove the bus or the vans or whatever they would need to use to move prisoners from one jail to court or another jail or to a hospital. And then now he's the guy that trains new transport officers how to drive the bus.
I got you.
So it's a lot less stressful than when he was
like it would be,
scrapping in the jail.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's wild. But I think if you're a sheriff though, transport's got to be pretty. It's got to be a pretty sweet gig.
It's a pretty cushy job, and I think that's kind of why he wanted it. Because I remember when he first went to the police department, he wanted to be an investigator, and then that just never panned out. Yeah. And he didn't want to work patrol in Aliso and have these long stretches of just sitting in a patrol car in a city that has nothing happening.
Yeah.
So he went to transport because now he works daytime hours every time, I think. I think he just works days, and he doesn't have to sit in the bus the whole time just driving it.
How long has he been with the sheriff department?
20 years now.
Whoa, wow. Yeah. It was really funny. Last Christmas, Danny and I got hired to do a private function. It was like a regional Christmas party for the California Highway Patrol.
Okay.
What's that? There's Los Banos and then there's the next one down. I mean, anyway, Santanella. It's in Santanella, California.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, you drive through it. You know, I'm shocked people live there. But it was kind of this big, kind of fancy hotel that looked like an old mission. I think it used to be an old mission.
Okay.
But it was, so we're there with all these CHP officers.
Yeah.
And at one point, a buddy of theirs that was a sheriff, they just kind of like rolled through. He was on patrol in the area, and he kind of like rolled through the party. And it was so bizarre to see, like, you got like a glimpse into like the dynamics of that relationship. They're like, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing here? The trailer park's over there, buddy." There's, all the people in this room have too many teeth for you to talk to them. Like, it's like, oh, you guys just rag on each other, department to department, and it was just weird to get a glimpse into that world, however brief it was, and to see how like these two departments kind of interact with each other. But I never thought about that.
Law enforcement does the same thing that the military does. It's like they all shit on each other if they're from different branches or different departments. But then like with cops, like as soon as like something kind of attacks their group, even if it's from another department, they do that thin blue line thing.
Oh, right.
To the extent where, like, if a cop ever becomes a whistleblower, they get fired or they get ostracized. So there's that interpersonal shitting on each other thing, but then, like, they form up ranks as soon as, like, they feel threatened.
Right.
So it's almost like a military in that sense.
Yeah. So this is a portion of the show where I ask you for a dadictote.
Oh, yeah, I saved this one.
Did you? Oh, good.
It was when I was 21, and I did some petty vandalism bullshit, and I got popped for it. I got community service, probation, the whole nine, and I ended up violating my probation by not finishing my community service hours.
Okay.
So they arrested me at the main court in Santa Ana, or not the side court in Newport Beach. They arrested me there, and they bust me over to the main jail in Santa Ana, and I step off the bus. My hands are handcuffed in front of me at the time. And I step off the bus, and I'm just greeted with my father in uniform, and he has to uncuff me, recuff my hands behind my back, guide me into the jail, and then book me into jail.
Wow.
Because he happened to be working intake at the IRC on the day I got arrested.
Did he say anything to you?
No. I was just an inmate. He was just an officer.
Wow.
We had no conversation aside from, I put your hands out. All right. Don't fight me. All right, sit here.
How fucking surreal, dude.
And then the whole booking loop process, it takes 14 hours. For the first 4 hours, every time I had to talk to one of the cops working intake, they would lean in and be like, "You know not to tell anyone who your dad is, right?" And I'm like, "No, I know. Don't say it any louder. I don't want them to hear you and fuck up my whole plan."
Right.
Because I just wanted to go mainline and just get out and not get protective custody.
Yeah. Whoa, dude.
And
That's a trip.
I've never met, it's been 6 years, I've never met a single person who has been booked into jail by their own father.
Oh, shit. And here's a question now, because you had mentioned that you had to go to, we talked about it off mic just a little bit ago. And I know I said it jokingly, I don't believe you. Because you're a genuinely sweet. You're kind of soft spoken for the most part. You're not like a big dumb gregarious idiot like me. You know, like you're kind of cool and in the pocket. Like what was the change for you? I mean,
the change for me was kind of getting sober. That helped a little bit.
Yeah.
Also the getting stabbed was a big wake up call.
You got stabbed.
And then the going to jail, getting dragged into a race war in jail, and realizing, like, as a Jewish person, defending swastika neck tattoos from Mexicans that I would much rather be friends with, I've made so many bad decisions, and I was finally catching up to me.
Wow.
And I was like, I got to change so many things, and I just became less of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
At least, like, in that sense. And that's when I became, like, a lot, like, I don't try to get into altercations. Like, even with hecklers, I always try to, like, I don't try to attack them right away.
Yeah.
I kind of turn it on myself and keep things going, because I never want a situation to escalate to violence again. I just want to avoid it as much as I can.
Because you're a super sweet dude, and honest to God, like I said, I did not believe you. I thought you were just kind of fucking with me at first. And,
no, it's all real. I still got the scars.
So I mean, I definitely admire that about you. And was it like an instantaneous switch when you made that, or did it take some time?
It took some time, because the jail stuff happened before the stabbing stuff happened, and that I was like, I don't want to go back to jail again. Better take this sketchy job that potentially puts me back in jail, get stabbed at the sketchy job, get released, go back to hard drinking,
right,
and then just kind of wake up one day, and I've slowly started to realize I just went cold turkey for the drinking, and I don't do anything other than just traffic violations now, so I can avoid any potential legal trouble.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but it's better to figure it out at whatever you were at the time, 25 or whatever.
21 for all the violent stuff. It was about a year later when I stopped all the drinking and shit.
Dude, to figure that out at 22,
is
a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Because there are guys more than twice that age that haven't figured it out yet. So
that's true. Yeah,
I mean, it's very admirable on your part to just have that self-awareness, like, oh, I am a piece of shit, and you kind of look to the internal rather than blaming it on all the external. Because in all fairness, you could be a piece of shit. and if you were like, I came from a broken family, and my dad did this, and my mom did this, and I think people would cut you a little bit of slack and give you like a little bit of piece of shit slack. You know what I mean? But
I don't know about it. My mom was a saint as far as being a mom goes. Like, she really tried her best for me and my brother.
That's great.
She always put us first. So it's not like I came from like a place with no good parental role model.
Gotcha.
My dad had his moments.
Sure.
And all the things that I got that went wrong for me, they were decisions I made.
Sure.
I made the decision to commit crimes. I made the decision to work for a company that wasn't reputable and made me do sketchy things. I made the decision to drink. I made the decision to do. And so, like, even when I was younger and I tried to blame other things on it, eventually I was kind of just like, yeah, it's on me.
So, yeah, I mean, but everything you just said is wonderful, because it's again, going back to like the self-awareness and just kind of correcting yourself rather than blaming the rest of the world for everything is it's sometimes it's not an easy thing to do, man, and you did it.
That's true.
And so way to go, man.
Thank you.
Jacob, you're rad. This has been a ton of fun, man. Can you tell the people where to find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Jacob Trimmer, Trimmer. Nothing fancy. I pronounce it weird sometimes, so I always like to spell it out. Instagram, Jacob M Trimmer. Somebody apparently stole my name, so I had to put the M in there.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I tried. I did the underscore for a minute, and I was like, no one cares about me enough to do an underscore.
Let's find that other Jacob Trimmer and take him shark fishing.
Those two are pretty much the only social media I use. If you follow me on Twitter, you're gonna be very disappointed with the fact that I haven't posted in like a year and a half.
Oh, fair enough. I'll link your Instagram in the show notes.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome, Jacob. Thanks so much for being on, brother. You were a ton of fun.
All right, thank you for having me.
And we're back. Jacob Trimmer, everybody. He's great. He's awesome. Nice little, like, I don't know if you call it a redemption story, but just I don't know, it's just a dude that made some mistakes and kind of self-corrected, and it's never too late to figure that shit out. It's hard. And Jacob did it, and I really admire it. And he really is just the most soft-spoken, sweetest guy you've ever met, and real funny too. He, like I said, he was up here with Matt and Tim, and man, they were a ton of fun. That was a fun week of shows, and couple things happening with me this week. September 18th. Our venue in Clovis, California, is hosting the Central Valley Comedy Competition, and we're a host venue on September 18th and September 25th. So if you're in the area, come out to that, check it out. You're going to see the cream of the crop of Central Valley comedians going up, and a few folks from out of town too. I've also got that night a real treat. He's actually going to be doing a feature showcase spot. Kyle Shire. Kyle Shire was episode 1, you guys. Episode 1, Kyle Shire. He's going to be back up on Tuesday, September 18th. And so come check him out. He's so funny. He's so funny, you guys. You should come hang out with me. Come hang out. It'll be so fun, I promise. Sorry. I sounded real needy when I said that, but I mean it. I mean it. I'd love to see some of you guys come out to the shows if you can. If you're in the area, that's the Chico's in Old Town Clovis, September 18th and September 25th. On the 25th, I have another. It's a similar situation where I have a headliner for that competition, doing a showcase spot. Anna Valenzuela. Oh man, Anna's so cool. I'm gonna really try. I want to try so hard to record a podcast with her while she's up. She's so funny. She's so funny. And I think that is it. Let's wrap this thing up. I'll like I said, I'm going to try to put out a bonus episode for you guys this week with just Abigail and I. I'm going to make sure she has a few talking points, though. A lot of times she comes into this and she's like, I really want to record a podcast. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll record a podcast with you, honey. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. Come on. So I'm going to make her write like a bullet point, like things she wants to talk about, so we can talk about them and make it an entertaining and structured episode. So, all right, you guys. Well, that's it for this week. I will talk to you real soon. Adios.